Okay. I will only have one disagreement with Brother Farouk's statements. One is definition of fundamentalism. I am saved, you are not. I think it is not a sufficient definition and could be also confusing. A person can know that he is the truth. I will not be offended if someone, a Mormon, come to me, I am saved, you are not, and in fact I appreciate him to come share with me his opinion how to be saved. I open my doors to Mormons, to Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, I admire them, I like them. They honestly believe that this is the way to be saved, and they come tell me. Of course, if it is with a tone of aggression, I am saved, you are not, here is, I have a gun to save you if you don't get saved, or kind of certain coercion, or you will pay me money, I call it jizya. In that time, I think it is problematic. Otherwise, people believing in something, not only believing, if you are believing for just sake of believing, just you happen to believe, really you don't have much anything to tell others except say, I believe this. I have no idea whether you will have the same feelings like I do. But if you have some evidence, I am here to share with you, and I am convinced that this is the truth. And the Quran is full of those statements, very strong statements. If you are a Muslim, you will have those statements. Tell them this is the guidance, and be guided, O ingrates. Therefore, I don't want my brother Farouk to be offended with my passion. I want him to be as passionate to save me from these numbers, God's miracle and stuff, take me to smoke of hell, whatever. But I love him, and I appreciate this discussion. I see this discussion fantastic. But if I impose on him, I try to punish him or stop him kind of from expressing his sin and putting him in jail or these kinds of things, that's wrong. Okay, that's gone. I think the major issue is epistemology. Epistemology is the fundamental point to start. And unfortunately, the Muslim world have been duped by many, many sources fabricated after the revelation of the Quran. The Prophet Muhammad, according to the Quran, received the Quran in chapter 6, verse 19, and this book is revealed to me to deliver to you and those after you. And there are many verses of the Quran, in fact, instructing Prophet Muhammad not to follow the wishes of others to divert him from the Quran. Follow this book. And follow the messenger, the Quran says. Never you see follow Muhammad. Why? Muhammad is a leader. He had to be elected by people to be followed, like Christians and Jews and the pagans in Medina. They didn't accept him as a messenger or prophet, but as a Muhammad, they found him as a human being with justice, good judgment. Therefore, they accepted his leadership. But Muslims, in addition to electing them as their worldly leader, living leader, they also accepted his message. Therefore, the word messenger comes from message in Arabic, Rasul Salih. And God kept his message, protected his message through the Quran. If the Quran, Hasha, or God needed Muhammad for his message to be complete, if God did not have enough words, or Hasha, I say, if God was unable to express himself, it needed Muhammad, someone, the one who is guided from the darkness to light through the Quran. God would protect Muhammad. Muhammad will give him the ages of thousands of years, correct? Will be. But this is not done neither during time of Prophet Muhammad. Hadith books were not written. Hadiths were not written according to their own. Bukhari is the most authentic one, 230 years after Muhammad. Hello? Don't you see any problem? If it was a necessary component of understanding the Quran or part of the religion, that means they left it to hearsay 230 years. When people were killing each other in the name of messenger and imams and stuff, making up many, many stories. According to Bukhari's his own statement in the beginning, he collected about 600,000 hadiths, which is a big exaggeration. And he ended up with 700 to 175. Basically, out of 197, 98 of them, he trashed them. Hello, Bukhari. What does it mean? It means either people were making up, there were factories of lies, Bukhari, somehow, he was divinely sent as another messenger prophet. He was able to distinguish them. Or he just eliminated most of the religion. And besides, why during the time of Prophet Muhammad the hadith books were not collected? They had a lie for that. A silly, contradictory thing. Well, they would be confused with the Quran. Now you are confusing with the Quran. No, it would be considered as a Quran. Goodness sake, now you are, at this time, you are invalidating, abrogating Quran with many hadiths. You don't need to put next to each other. You even put over the Quran. And during time of Sahaba, why didn't they do that? They make up stories that during the time of Prophet Muhammad, there were no papers, no ink. They were writing on rocks and fighting over bones with dogs. They were writing that. This is a big lies. The Quran, during the time of Prophet Muhammad, was gathered according to the very Quran, the 80 Safarati. And then later, these people did not put together hadiths. They established a state. They beat Byzantine Empire shortly. And then the Sassanid Empire. They couldn't find even skin. They were eating camels, goodness sake. But they didn't write it down according to your own hadiths. We refer to their hadiths. Why? The same mentality you use against me. I use their hadiths for what? Not because I really believe them. I base on my Quran alone on these hadiths to show them their own contradiction. When I show some hadiths in verses regarding verse 9, 128, it is not a matter epistemologically I am in contradiction. I am relying on that to show those who are opposing me. Here is your own book. These are the hadiths that you believe about chapter 9, verse 120. Therefore, I see the same confusion here too. Anyway, I know that I was not supposed to respond this one, but this was the chance to hit back. Now then, there are many hadiths. I want to share with you a few of them. One is very important. I want you to remember in their cherished hadith books, says during Prophet Muhammad's death time, Prophet Muhammad asked them to bring me a paper and pen. I will write you something that you will not be misguided after me. And according to that hadith, the prominent Sahabas there means comrades of Muhammad, and one of them rushes to bring a paper and pen. According to that hadith, your own hadith, I say, it's not me, I care less about this one, but in your own book, you call it Sahih. And it's repeated in many other books. Umar bin Khattab is another idol, his name put next to God besides Muhammad, Ali, Abu Bakr, correct? Shia says other versions of gods besides this one. And, well, what did Umar did? According to this, he stopped him. Said, Hasbuna Kitabullah. It is in hadith book. In their most cherished books, they associate to Quran. Hasbuna Kitabullah. God's book is sufficient for us. The Prophet is sick. He doesn't know what he is saying. He has fever. He doesn't know what he's saying. And then according to that hadith, they stopped writing. This is the last word of Prophet Muhammad. Supposedly, he would tell us what to follow. And all other prominent Sahabas agrees. In goodness sake, you tell them, then writing hadith is bad. Then if Umar is right, you kind of glorify Umar, then Hasbuna Kitabullah. Why when I am saying the same thing, I become apostate, while your Umar and all other Sahaba agrees with that, even they don't write hadith when Prophet Muhammad tells them to write, they are okay. The same book says, Ibn Mas'ud, he had a book, Quran version, manuscript. He didn't have Mu'awwizatain, the two last chapters of the Quran, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq and Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. Goodness sake, you are accusing me of becoming kafir, murtad, because I don't agree, I reject these two statements in your manuscript. Here this guy, your most cherished hadith narrator, one of the great Sahaba, who is like a star, guide you, he did not accept this being part of the Quran. I remind them this not because I believe that. Maybe true, maybe not. But I tell them, if you believe in this, what is this? Contradiction. Another Sahaba, Ubay bin Ka'b, according to those hadiths, has extra chapter too. Had the extra chapter, those Hanafites recites in their morning prayer, Allahumma iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Not yeah, Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka wa nastahdik. According to he had added this, he thought this is from the Quran. Therefore, their hadith book is full of contradiction. And the Quran says for the Quran, La rayba fihi. There is no question, there is no doubt about it. But their hadith book was so much full of doubt, and therefore they put these doubts according to their own methodology of fabricating lies and classifying lies. They call it usul hadith. It is a great ilm, as if I didn't study that. But they impress people who don't know Arabic with some Arabic term, or this was such a great alim, he studied usul al-hadith, means the procedure of fabricating lies, justifying lies, classifying lies, and selling lies. That's it. What happened, another thing, is betraying the Quran, and the only complaint of the messenger in the Quran is mentioned in chapter 25 verse 30. وَقَالَ رَسُولُ يَا رَبِّي إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. The messenger will say, oh my Lord, my people have deserted the Quran. Exactly this happened. And the history is murky. I studied history. For example, just Imam Azam, it's called Abu Hanifa. If you critically look at his life, this guy was a monotheist guy. He rejected hadith. He was accused by falsifiers, by those so-called ulama who tried to flatter the tyrants of the time. He was accused of not following hadith. He was imprisoned during Umayyad times, then Abbasid times. But later, when he became public hero, there were a lot of monotheists at that time. But the corruption started from top. And then he has a kind of mythological, he's a great hero. They use his name, in his name, Imam Abu Yusuf and Ahmed made up a sect using hadith and stuff. And just I want to tell you how the corruption of Islam, the Jahiliyyah, the teaching of Jahiliyyah, ignorance, came back. Through the Quran could not be. Quran was protected by God. But they found a big hole through narrating stories through Prophet Muhammad. Just look at hadith about Mahdis. Just look. The motive is so obvious. The Mahdi hadith, there are many hadiths about Mahdi, means like the Messiah of Christian, they got it from them. When some of them bring Mahdi in Baghdad, in Damascus, some of them in Baghdad or Kufa or Basra. If you study the history of this, the narrators, and you put them in the context, you find out the hadith that tells about Mahdi that will come in Damascus, they were fabricated during Umayyad times by those who wanted to portray the dictator of the time as the savior, as the Mahdi, and even the portrait fits. And later in Abbasid times, therefore one is there is motive, the leaders want to justify themselves through propaganda themselves through hadith. There are hadiths justifying killing innocent people, women, or killing the apostate, because for those who are on top, who purchase some ulama, it is very easy to stop the descent in the name of God. If they got this, you can kill the apostate. They killed many people through these laws that fabricated by them. They even fabricated hadith to sell goods. Goodness sake, why not? Because when you tell story, when you say, I heard from this Ibnu, this Abu, you made up names, and then you made up a story about Prophet Muhammad stops, people's minds stop. We are very careful about stories about us. This gentleman made up a story, I objected, and you thought I made up a story about you. Thank you very much, you should tell me. If I said that time, I would appreciate it because it was not intentional.
I don't like
okay, I appreciate it. But I know that it was not your intentional too, because in the heat you perceive that way, but we should have to... anyway, where I was?
Talk about reform of
Making up stories about food.
Okay.
Reform.
What I was just...
Example.
Maybe. Okay, and then about propaganda, about advertisement. When people tell us stories about us, about our loved ones, we are careful about those stories. If they make up some lies, we object that. We stand for that. But if they make up stories about God, about prophets, we just become receptive. We become zombies. Whatever they tell us, I believe, I believe. Interestingly, we become proud of that. I am a believer. You are a believer of BS, a lot of insults and stories about the creator of the universe. How in the world you can be proud of that? And many people, unfortunately, in churches you cannot ask a question. In mosques you cannot ask questions. You cannot question the imam. The Quran says the other way. The teaching of Bible, original Bible, is the other way. Who are the opponents of Prophet Muhammad? They were the most religious, dogmatic people. They were theocratic oligarchy in Mecca. They didn't deny God. In fact, they said, we are believers in God. We follow Abraham. They had other saints and stuff, intercessors between God. They made up stories about God. And what about Jesus? He stormed the Pharisees, the temple. He says, you turn God's house to robbers' den. The religious people are the biggest enemies of God. Religious people, when I say there's religious clergymen, because they distort, they create idols, human idols, in order to justify their authority, control over people. If you say to people, La ilaha illallah, there is no God except the God. In fact, it starts from atheism. La ilaha, the structure is very important. You reject every dogma, everything. If someone wants to become Muslim, I say reject everything. About God, about thing, about book. You don't need to accept Quran. Think about, first eliminate yourself from stories about extraordinary stuff. And then search, and then accept. First denial, and then clean the house from dogmas and stories. But when you say La ilaha illallah, you become a free person. You, between you and God, no holy person, no Edip, no this guy go. You only listen to the words and follow the best. And we are equal. I cannot save you, you cannot save me. In the day of judgment, I am responsible of my own deeds and beliefs, and you are the same. But this doesn't allow those people who exploit in the name of God, want to control people, divert people. They want to put themselves between you and God. In order to put themselves, they need to make up stories in the past. There were some holy people. In fact, the people you respect, they really between God and people. You see, all of them, intercession and hadith and plus. Therefore, now I am representing them. They may not tell you exactly, but the authority comes. Therefore, Khomeini had that power over people. Pope has that power of people for what? Because of the previous idols. He steps on those previous idols. He asserts authority explanation. One more point. I don't know, in Turkish it's very common, but I don't know whether in English, but in Turkish, because it rhymes, when something rhymes, people swallows it faster, easier. When you put li in a little bit kind of literary, fine way with rhymes, oh, they say it is fun. They say Islam akıl dinidir, nakil dini değil. Akıl nakil. Islam is the religion of scripture, is narration, not the religion of mind, reason. This is the biggest bait that Satan put in the minds of people. Get rid of the mind, reasoning faculties that detect viruses, Trojan horses from entering our system. They eliminate this one, discard that one when we enter mosque, and then any lie goes. There is narration from this, from that holy person, and this is it. Therefore, the issue Islamic reform really starts from critical thinking, not from the book, from going back to our nature. In fact, the very Quran refers to that. In chapter 30, verse 30 says, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهَا. This is the fitra. Islam is the fitra, our nature. Because God gave us ruh. From His the logic that we can connect to God. We can evaluate, understand the truth, God's message. By using our reasoning with sincere intention, qalb salim, good intention, we are able to recognize the truth to attain salvation, inshallah. Okay, 2 more minutes? Okay. And the issue, I have written manifesto, but before that, when in Turkey, when I said Quran alone, first it was on 1st of July 1986, when I received I started communicating with Rashad Khalifa many years later. And then I discovered that he is not. I was expecting him be like my father. My father was a prominent Sunni scholar. I found him, he is a blasphemer and heretic. And I told him, you are a disbeliever. I was sending him a hadith. He was responding with a Quranic verse. I was in military service, incredible adventures that time. I was able to communicate him through mail. Very short, briefly, Quran. And I was able to see. Here Quran, here is hadith. Quran was like Asai Musa was eating these snakes. Boom. And then another hadith I was responding. He would send me another verse. Boom. Eliminated my hadith. And then this communication friend, I a little bit got confused and stuff. Says, did you receive Quran, Hadith, and Islam? No, it is a very thin book with the ugliest cover that you can have. But it is really putting together verses of the Quran, comparing with Hadith, just little hint, emphasizing, pulling attention to some words in the book. 1st July 1986, it is my day of power. That night when I read it, I cried and repented to God. I said, God, forgive me. I put my life at risk for this so-called Sharia, so-called Mazahibs and Hadiths. I end up in Turkish prisons. I went to Iran for that, to have revolution based on this, to bring these things. And God forgive me, and I will try my best to promote the message Quran alone. From that point, Alhamdulillah, I am through my books and things, and I am very grateful that I have these gentlemen, and I hope that you are too. I don't know, but you seem very angry with me. Well, I love it. He's great. Anyway, I'm glad that this message is finding great response from around the world. You have no idea that I received from China. A Chinese girl in high school says, I read this reformist translation or something on the internet. I became Muslim. I want to translate it. And hopefully she will come to Cornell University. Another person just 3 days ago, from among all the places in, what is this next to Philippines, north of there, and one of the countries there. It is translated to Russian, Italian, a girl from Italian, and she translated, finished the translation. Now it will be edited. It is incredible how now in a country, the elite of that country got this message. Maybe in that country soon they will follow the Quran alone. Very possible. In Nigeria recently, I got into, by chance, know someone who is a minister in Nigeria, and through this person, Anyway, there are some very good news, inshallah. By then, hopefully, we will iron out some of the things, but I think there is something changing throughout the world. There are certain divine plan. 9/11 could be one of them that we need to open up, question. Now, Jane and Joe on the street, they are questioning, they are interested in the message. It is a good sign. Thank you.
We now have 30 minutes of question and answer points from the floor on the subject of Islamic reform. Again, I'll take them in groups of 3. Do I see any hands? What there? Yes?
Okay, so my question is, and this question is to both of you, do you think that there is enough common ground amongst all the different Islamic reformers today for an actual tangible organization or movement that actually has some political power and momentum to come out of it? And if so, like what kind of time frame, being in that kind of group of people, do you see that moving forward?
Next. Right. Yeah.
I mean, to both speakers, who do you consider are the prominent Islamic reformers at the moment?
One more. Yes.
Just ask me, both of them, what do they think actually of the place of Islamic reform in the Islamic countries like Saudi Arabia or even Pakistan or Afghanistan, where there is a very hard and strong Sunni culture or
Thank you. Yeah. So we've got 3 questions. I'd like to start with Farouk, take all 3 of them. Your responses. very quickly, and then Edip, all three quickly. The longer you speak, the less questions we get.
All right, okay. I think the first question was, what is the basis of unity between the different factions of Islamic reformers? I partly belong to the Muslim Institute here, and one thing I'm very proud to say, the Muslim Institute, we welcome Muslims of all persuasions. Yes, and non-Muslims as well, sorry, yes. And I think that's very important. The fact that you open your gates to absolutely everyone who comes with tolerance and peace. For us to unify, I think we need to unify on common human values. There's one scholar, his name is Nukolish Majid, he's from Indonesia, and he made a separation between the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. Now he said the vertical axis is you and Allah. Yeah? Because you going upwards, you and Allah. Horizontal axis is between you and human beings. I think we need to focus on the horizontal axis. Have spaces of debate. I mean, today we had a space for debate, but we closed that space. Now we're moving on to unified points of unity. So that's what we need to do. We need to have certain time to discuss, certain times to work together. And I don't think in terms of social reform, anyone would disagree that, number one, we need to eliminate poverty. We need to eliminate illiteracy. We need to increase the level of education. These are all common ground. And people of all religious persuasions, not just Muslim reformers, but reformers of humanity, would agree on this. Second question is by Shahid, I think it was, who are the prominent reformers of today? In my view, Muhammad Arkoon, who sadly just passed away, is one of them. Muhammad Arkoon, he had the capacity to rethink Islam. I would highly recommend his book, Islam, Common Questions, Uncommon Answers, where he advocated a paradigm shift for everyone who is thinking about Islam. I just like to clarify, although I'm a Quranist, I have no problem with Muslims believing in whatever source they feel can give them spirituality. What I do have a problem with is fundamentalism. Fundamentalism, when you say, for example, this is the only way, there's no other way. We see that with the Salafiyah. That I find a problem, because with that you're focused only on religious uniformity. What we want is for people to be diverse, but at the same time to come together for common human values. And the last question is by that gentleman at the back, the place of reform in Muslim countries. That's a very short answer. There's no place at all, unfortunately. No, it's just we can't see that, can we? No, that's not actually true.
It's true.
No, it's not. Malaysia, for example, there are a number of different organizations, the Islamic Renaissance Front, the Sisters in Islam, for example, who are in fact fighting against Sharia laws which they consider oppressive. Now, this does not mean that all of Sharia law is oppressive. Let people extract from Sharia law what they find useful, and we need to be tolerant of that, I think. But I'm afraid in some of the Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, and so on, you'll be a bit hard-pressed to find Islamic reform. What you first need is probably to get people to start, as Edip says, critically think. So, thank you.
Shortly, I have been suspicious of, I had problem regarding establishing an organization where Peru or me or someone else become kind of the religious leader and the others become the subject and follow their things. And that's part of that kind of hierarchical institution or organization will just generate another cult, another sect, another religion. And that's the problem. Therefore, I have been always staying away for those kind of cult. Many years have been calling me. But I put a condition. I will be engaging with an organization if there is no that kind of leadership that the person's name, when the signature put, people will accept it. He here it is. This is our guru, and there is that kind of philosophical flavor and that kind of open mind and discussion. As he said, different ideas are tolerated and discussed. It doesn't mean I will have certain conviction my own. No. I will not give way to anyone. I will be fundamental about certain things that I am 100%, according to me, I have reasons to believe that. I will not become suspicious, skeptic, because to please you, to see that I'm not fundamental, everything goes about God. No. If I see something wrong, but I should be able to say, and the same with you, but we will respect each other's human rights. You will be as free as I am. Therefore, in Turkey, when they tried to punish someone, put in prison an atheist on the pretext that he's insulting kind of prophet or the Quran, I was one of them. I wrote an article, and on YouTube I say, Muslims should be just the other way around they do. They should protect this guy. This world is, for God created this world with Satan even in it, to have a test. People, whoever, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wants, let them believe. Whoever wants, let them reject. And the Prophet Muhammad, وَمَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ, you are not a dictator over them. You are not even guiding them. God guides. It is up to them. Therefore, in fact, the Quran, interestingly, in chapter 4, verse 140 says, if there are some people insulting or mocking your religion, your deen, maybe the word religion is wrong because at this time is used really for bandwagon or organization that exploit. Maybe system is a good way of life. If someone insult and make mockery of that, doesn't say beat that person, correct? Or put in prison or bite that person's leg, hand. No. Leave that person, leave that group, and then how long? Until they come back to their reason, go back, continue your argument discussion. You see, you don't even cut the relation forever. Because at that time, they are doing by emotion, they follow their emotion. They are not in the zone of intellectual argument. That's very important, but you see Muslims go crazy if someone forget about insulting God, says something about Prophet Muhammad. They are more for God than God for himself, as if in the name of God, against the Quran, they go punish that person. Therefore, freedom of expression, respect to diversity, but not falling into the trap of relativism. Everything goes about God. You should say everything is okay. No, I will not. But having that diversity is fantastic. And women's rights, I think, specifically among human rights, is important. The Quran gave women's rights, means which is God's given right, natural rights, but there are many verses criticizing Meccan polytheists for oppressing women or discriminating against women. But those rights were taken away by hadith, unfortunately. Interestingly, among all things, slavery was turned back through hadith. Slavery diametrically contradicts not with simple verses of the Quran, with the first statement, La ilaha illallah. You cannot say La ilaha illallah and you be pro-slavery, because there is no Rabb, Lord besides God. But if you say, you are my abd, I am your Lord, you are my abd, my slave, my servant, and I am your Lord, you will become like Pharaoh. Pharaoh didn't say, I am creating you. He said, I have full authority over you. You are my subject, and I am your Lord. And therefore Pharaoh considered to become a polytheist besides God. And slavery, how in the world they were able to say slavery is not haram, is okay? Yes?
I was just going to say, I don't think either of you actually answered my question, which is about the...
Oh, did I went too much? Okay.
About the time frame.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And what can you actually see? Like, if your vision for the future of this movement, what do you see if you had to give a prediction? Take the temperature, basically.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, and I'm sorry, I have to actually respond to Edip's point here. I don't believe that it is about relativism at all. I just believe that there are spaces for discussion and there are spaces for action. In my opinion, I mean, you know, I'm very passionate about my own study of the Quran. And I believe that this is the best I can come up with at this point. But I will not say, for example, to anyone else, I'm sorry, your study is not worth anything or discounted or it's only falsehood or etc. I'm not going to do that. And I believe that's very important. I believe every human being needs to engage with Islam for himself or herself. And when we do that, then we begin to think, okay, well, the Quran tells me something and the Quran tells the other person something. What in common do we have? For example, the Quran says, strive towards al-khairat. It repeats that twice. Strive towards all that is good.
Concentrate on her question, please.
Yeah, sorry, yes, indeed.
You're not here to attack each other, you're here to answer the question.
You are digressing.
Okay. So the time frame, I can't actually say give an actual, year by year kind of thing, but I do believe that it will take a generation. It will take a generation, and that generation needs to first start with critical thinking. And I do believe that a lot can be learned from the Protestant movement in Christianity. I would highly recommend a book by Dermot McCullough called Reformation, The Houses of Europe Divided. Brilliant book, and you will see Islam going through the same phase even now.
Edip, you want to respond briefly to the lady?
Yeah, briefly, I am ready to see a surprise, great surprises, and because so far certain things surprise me. I never expected. Therefore, within few years, if we see a country says we'll follow the Quran and we'll have a federal secular system. I say federal for certain reason. It's not full secular, but federal secular system based on the universal principle of the Quran, which will emphasize this. We address the poverty and the accumulation of wealth in the hand of the few. That's one of the biggest problems in the world. According to the Quran, a society will not be a moral society if one person is hungry, some people have extra food. That doesn't fit the Quranic description of a Muslim. Or if someone is homeless, you have extra room. Therefore, this is not also individually could be done. You cannot individually have in a city a road. You say, well, everyone let them pave their road. Some there will be holes and stuff. It will be counterproductive. Some people will be even elevate the road in order to show off. But therefore, that not be a kind of a community. We say we take care of each other. We share our things, but we'll have also freedom to go to enjoy our work and creativity. But there are certain necessities of life, like food, like shelter, like healthcare, like home. This for everyone. We are brothers and sisters. We take care of each other. That's important. And second, standing against wars. We have been escalating production of weapons through many, many ways, sometimes imposed on us by the imperialist powers. There are people who are bloating, who are making billions of dollars from blood. The blood of the poor people in their country, sending to other countries, killing other poor people. We need to be more courageous than those cowards who are killing many millions of people just in this last decade. Therefore, we need to be peacemakers and connecting with other peacemakers, regardless of their religion or color. We need to unite our voices with peacemakers, stand against warmongers, those who enjoy creating conflict. And second, environment. This is very important. God gave this world for us, not to waste it, not to trash it. But unfortunately, the capitalistic system with another evil system like communism, but its lifespan a little bit more, but it will collapse. I have no doubt future generation will condemn. This is one of the worst anti-human and the system that has no consciousness, no heart. We have destroyed, poisoned the earth, the land, the oceans, the atmosphere. And we are leaving a very poisoned thing for our future, for our children. I cannot even eat fish right now. Some of the fish have mercury in it. Okay, and therefore environment, we need care about this, and we don't, anyway, we need to, and then the other for freedom. Stand for freedom of expression, even the freedom of your enemy. Stand for their freedom of expression, even the freedom of a person who believes in headscarf. I don't believe that. I defend their rights. There's not the veil. I think that's a big problem, because the identity of the person and security of the society. But in other ways, everyone should choose whatever.
Thank you. Can I take the next three questions? This gentleman here.
Yeah, it's a question and a comment really. it was said that when we talk about Islamic fundamentalism, we don't mean the people that commit atrocious acts. Perhaps not everybody knows, in Ireland, some 6,000 people died in what's called the Troubles between fundamentalist Protestants and fundamentalist Catholics. And those terrorists relied on two things. One was non-violent fundamentalists within the community that actively supported them. And the other was the wider community that was apathetic at what they were doing. And it's generally held that the IRA and the UVF and the rest of them could not have operated without the inactivity of the community in general. So when you talk about a generation, I'm not sure you've got a generation. I think you're going to have to be a bit quicker than that.
Two more questions. More points? I don't see any hands. Yes, just one here.
Just a quick question. Farouk, you mentioned the Mu'tazila. You mentioned that the collapse of, well, the degeneration of Islamic civilization started with their destruction. What do you think we can learn about why they came to an end, and in terms of using that for the future?
One more? Yes?
Okay, so we're talking about a generation, so we've got a time frame, but all of us sitting here who are interested in this sort of manifesto, what would be a practical step that we could take away from here to work towards that?
Okay. Farouk? Do you want to do first?
Okay, very fast.
Okay, you go first then.
Yeah, Muslims in UK, I think, not only bystanders, and I think this is my thing, in countries we need to appreciate where we are, that provided tolerance and freedom for us, and I think that is lacking. I found in Holland and even Belgium a lot of Middle Easterners. I find them that some of them, if I were the native of that one, I would be resentful. These people come from this country, they don't follow much traffic rules or littering, for example, or isolating themselves. There are some other reasons, maybe both sides mutual. And also I saw some of them bragging about taking from Social Security or what, certain money without work. And absolutely this is, I think, shameful. This has nothing to do with Islam. A Muslim cannot be lying, cannot try to take advantage of a country, a system that providing them with such a shelter. Therefore, Muslims in this country need to be integrating, to helping people, society, volunteering for other things in their time, to tutor, to go hospital. And on the other hand, if they want to live their things, respect to their also religion, whatever system they have. This is, and practical step, I think we have something, some ideas about it. Personally, I am in contact with some people, and on my side, and I hope that we can all work together one day. And personally, I want to move to either Turkey or to Europe, because in the United States, I'm in the middle of desert in Arizona for 22 years, hugging cacti. It's not a very good job. I became a desert lizard. Therefore, I decided to come here because, first of all, there is a kind of fault line here between Muslim immigrants and things. I think we could be a good mediators and good voice to invite both sides to reason, to unite, and to establish a wonderful community. I think Muslims have a lot to learn. Muslims, I say it in general, Sunnis, to learn from West, and West also has to learn some from Muslims. West has their own problem. Look at the loneliness. One of the major issues in Western world, there are about 30% in US and maybe 40% are lonely people. They kind of family structure messed up because of the system, and people are lonely in their homes, or there are kind of a lot of other vices, problems. And maybe Muslim could have some good things if they have, and also Western. Therefore, we need to learn from each other. Fantastic thing. And hopefully, if we will do first come up with some project. This will project not only involve some making films. I think visual thing is very important. We already made a two documentaries it will come soon. But we make really kind of movies, and also we as books and pamphlets, and go give lectures, and also work to help as much as possible to eliminate poverty, find train people in certain areas, and also teach children in certain age critical thinking is the most important thing. I told my son, when he was a certain age, I say, if you are going to become Muslim because your father and mother Muslim, please don't become Muslim. You will not be able to become Muslim. I say, you are on your own. But if you want to discuss with me anything, come sit down, we'll discuss based on reason and evidence. And therefore we should be wanting our children to be critical thinkers, standing on their feet, thinking on their, they will become much better people instead of turning to become robots or copies.
Thank you. Yeah. About the question of non-violent fundamentalists, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't very clear in my presentation. I believe Islamic fundamentalism is way beyond those explosive chappies. Those guys, the ones who do the acts of violence, they are at the very end of the sliding scale of fundamentalism. At the other end of sliding scale of fundamentalism are Muslims who act as if they have the keys to heaven. To me, that's the main problem. You see, when you have that mentality and you have instruments which bring that mentality to life, the Islamic State, Sharia law, the bigoted notion of ummah, not the cultural ummah, mind you, yeah? Just the bigoted notion of ummah. Whoever wants to join us has to adopt our set of rules and values. That's wrong. People should know that Islam, in its formative stage, absorbed cultures as much as it imparted its own cultural values. So, agreed. I agree with you. We don't have a generation. And in fact, I see among Muslim youth of today, they have elements of that fundamentalism even though they don't know it. You know, they start thinking, yeah, you know, we're Muslims, isn't it? We're saved. They say stuff like that. Actually, no, you're not saved just because you call yourself Muslim or Christian or Hindu. You're saved by your acts. Are you continuously acting for the sake of good? And if you are, then, you know, God be with you, you'll be okay. About the Mu'tazila, what's the lesson learned? That Darren asked me that. In my opinion, the Mu'tazila failed because they were a top-down system. They wrote stuff which nobody can read. Even today, I had to seriously struggle to understand some of their ideas because it's so difficult and philosophical. But they didn't care to make their ideas effective on the ground. And I think that's important. I think it's important to write things in simple language so people can understand, you know. It's like, okay, you disagree with Sharia law. Write something saying, okay, here is Sharia law. I disagree with this. It contradicts the Quran on this level. But here are things which can be reconciled with the Quran. Therefore, let's follow that. Maybe that's the lesson learned. You need to make things accessible for people. So, lastly, Nadia's question, what is a practical step? To me, the practical step to any movement is identity. And we saw that, I mean, with the Quranist Network, when we first used the term Quranist, people were like, oh, are you creating a sect or something like that? We had that problem in 2011. But now, people see that our groups, I mean, we are mostly active on Facebook, people see that our groups are the places where you can air any opinion and you won't be censored. Why? Because we don't believe there is a clergy. We don't believe anyone has official key to Islam. We do believe that people should come and have their ideas. If you disagree, you can disagree in peace. You don't have to say, okay, well, you're going here and going there and so on. We don't need such things. So for the Protestant Islam, we need the first practical step is to create that identity. Wear that T-shirt, I am a Muslim. I believe both of us can go to heaven. Say, wear that and let people see it. And people go, what? Don't you believe that only Muslims can? No, I don't. I don't believe that. I believe all peacemakers can go to heaven, for example. So that's the practical step. Create that identity. And let me tell you, the best people to do this are the Ahmadiyya. I am so amazed at their level of action. I was just walking, I usually go to Tooting for, Rizwan's talks, yeah? And, we'll be walking past the loads of restaurants and we'll see Muslims for peace, justice, and so on. Yes, it's Islam. But then we'll see that Ahmadiyya community of London and so on. They are very active in their work. Yet the majority of Muslims say, no, they're not Muslims. But really, they are the most active. They are the ones doing the kind of work which the Quran calls for. And that's what we need to do, I think. Thank you.
Edip, 1 minute.
Okay. 2 minutes negotiate.
1 minute.
Well, me and my colleague Ruby Amatullah, we established several years ago MPJP, Muslim for Peace, Justice and Progress. We did some good meetings and projects, and we also communicated with people in Tunisia and Egypt groups there, and we shared some good ideas. In fact, one of the reasons we put together this Peacemakers Constitution is to share the idea with them. I don't know how effective, how many of them share this with others, but at least among them some people got this idea. And we are working on some. In fact, we are also in touch with Occupy movement too. I think in this regard I will be fundamentalist, though again it's not because key of the heaven in my pocket, but could be for myself. Yes,
2 minutes.
yeah. The Pope, for example, says, but Popes sometimes nice people, sometimes bad.
Can you stop now?
Okay. Well, I don't want my last word to be the Pope. Okay. I thank you very much. Thank God. Peace. Okay.
We now got 30 minutes to where each of the speakers, starting with Farouk, will talk about the theory of Protestant Islam.
No, I've already done that.
Not according to the agenda. We've been doing Islamic reform.
That is my theory of
We are done. We're almost done. Let's have
Okay, in that case, if you don't have any more, if you don't want to
I don't
cover
have
the
anything
theory,
else to present.
that case, let's
Sorry.
next set of questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I know you're both very anti-Hadith, and you know I mean, what about accepting Hadith which does not contradict the Quran? Because the Quran came first, and the Hadith was an example of the Prophet's behavior, and sometimes we do need it because you know, like you know, in the Quran, like you were saying, chopping off the hand, but did the Prophet ever do that in his own lifetime? Did he ever do a lot of things which are written in the Quran? Just really an example of his lifetime.
Let me take 2 more questions first. Yes?
Mr. Farouk, I will just ask you, what is your point of view, or the point of view of the Quranist movement about the Hadith?
That's the same question as.
Is it the same question? Or?
I think so.
Well, you can answer it when you get to answering.
Okay.
Next question. In that case, let's answer those 2 questions. Oh, yes, question. Right.
It's for Edip. Could you say something about cognitive dissonance, please? I was very intrigued the other day.
Okay.
Yes, you can go first.
Okay. This question has been asked many times. I have written an article, White Trash, All Hadith, all is emphasized. And also I had YouTube, White Trash, All Hadith. I don't accept one single hadith besides God's hadith, the best hadith, as a source. For several reasons. One, it contradicts the Quran. Sallahu bi kafin abda. Isn't God sufficient? The Quran is the guidance, the book enough. And second, practically, basically, it is a slippery slope to the garbage pile of hadith. I will use that because incredible insults to Prophet Muhammad in those things. In the name of Prophet Muhammad, following Prophet, they do the worst insult. When I debated with what was this, Robert Spencer, he's the author of many best-selling books against Muhammad and Islam. I had a 2 long symposium with him. And he, and also there are several other, Bill Ayer or Sina, he has a very hate-promoting website. And these guys, the treasure was hadith book to indict and condemn Prophet Muhammad as a sexual maniac, as a torturer, as this, as that. And I took away that He insisted on that. He made exactly the same argument that Sunnis want. First of all, if you rely on those books, if you start picking and choosing, they will pick and choose. They will say, well, here you pick and choose, let me pick and choose. This is on the menu. And the problem is, first, theologically. When you say La ilaha illallah, you don't add Muhammad as a partner with God in terms of authority. In al-hukmu illa lillah, very clear. Messenger delivered the message. He was not kind of, God could not explain the Quran. The Quran says God is the explainer Quran. ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانَهُ. In fact, they distort one verse about Prophet Muhammad delivering the Quran, bayana, instead of delivering, announcing, they say it explain. No, because there is another verse. Basically, they distort so many verses of the Quran. They create a Muhammad which is partnered with God in system. Okay, and I give you two examples, two extreme examples of hadiths, not contradict to Quran. If you pick hadith, first of all, from that you say, I understand this Quran, here is this hadith from the pile of contradiction, a rotten garbage, and there are some beans that doesn't rotten. You say, this is okay, looks like the beans on this protected thing. Let's have this one too, as if this is not enough. Well, this is similar to this. And why? Well, this could be polluted, could have virus, bacteria, you cannot be sure. If the doctor give you a medicine, says this is disinfected, this will cure you, this is protected, and you get that one, on the way to the doctor you go, a peddler has gallons of water, some of them even green, some of them have some incredible things in it, some even have frog in it, and say, well, you need what? In order to get this one, this is not enough for your cure. You need to mix it with this water, dirty water, which is Zan, classified, different colors, and they are each kind of label. You need to mix it and drink it. No, sir. No, don't mix it. That's enough. And two examples. One is, recently there was a news in Turkish newspaper, some Turkish Hajis, they went to pilgrim, they followed hadith, which they thought doesn't contradict the Quran. Because you are the arbiter. Basically, what ultimately you are doing, whatever your understanding of the Quran may be polluted by hadith and other culture, or your personal desire, or maybe objective, whatever fit that you put there. Therefore, it has no value, it's zero value because it doesn't change. You are not relying on Senate narrator because they are not reliable. You reject some having exactly the same narrator. Therefore, you don't look at the chain of narrators, you look at the meten, the text. Well, text, if fits my understanding, is okay. Then you can read, you can accept Chinese proverbs too the same way. That's like Quran plus Chinese proverbs, because some of them fits the Quran. Why don't you say Chinese proverbs? Because that one that fits you may not be really from Prophet Muhammad. It is hearsay. And here it is, based on that, they picked a hadith that in Prophet Muhammad, a group of people came to him that somehow, they said, we are sick, Medina's air is bothering us, we got sick. Prophet Muhammad says, okay, go out of the city, I have my camels, go drink from the urine and milk of the camels. And then later chops them, gouges their eyes with hot nails and stuff. And based on that hadith, the Imam there says, here, there are camels here, and really we got sick in Medina. Well, we have a hadith in Bukhari. And they drank camel's urine. Several of them got hospitalized terribly. They got infection from the camel's urine. It was news. They almost died. I don't know whether they died. They follow these hadiths. Some people may think this is not contradicting to the Quran. The Quran doesn't say don't drink camel urine. The Quran doesn't say don't drink shit either. But Quran wants you to reason, first of all. And second, one hadith, I want you to go to the other side, seems more reasonable than this one, much more reasonable. Sometimes I challenge the follower hadith. Give me one hadith that I really needed besides the Quran for salvation. One of them came up with this, I don't forget, because fantastic example of how seemingly harmless, nice instruction can be one of the worst instruction. In fact, pinpointing one of the biggest factor in trouble in Muslim world. He came up with this hadith. If you see bad things, evil, bad things doing, change it with your hands. If you cannot do it with your hands, then with your words. If you have weaker faith, then in your mind object it. This is one of the worst methodology of correcting things, because it tells all the ignorance, all the would-be pharaohs, little pharaohs, to take a stick in their hand to go correct you and me. Because they see it. They will not talk to you. They will not say why you are doing that. And they don't have any chance to learn you from you. They have only chance to beat you. And then, if they are weak, I hope they are weaker, they don't even talk at all. When I went to Iran, I want to finish with that one if you have. When I went to Iran in 1980, after I heard about in 1980, before that, it was summertime, Ramadan time. I went to Iran. I was invited secretly as representative of Turkish youth. I was very active. In just one day, in few hours, I could just gather 1,000 people in the middle of a crossroad, have a illegal meeting and stuff, protest stuff. And that time, I was that crazy. My brother is legendary Islamist martyr. He's still celebrated in Turkey. And Tayyip Erdogan was my friend. Today's mayor, but he was not as active as crazy I was. I ended up in prison, I ended up escaped, he ended up becoming prime minister because he was less active. But I went to Iran. I wanted to import the Islamic revolution, so-called Islamic revolution, because they come up with slogan, istiqlal, azadi, hukumeti islami. Istiqlal, independence, azadi, freedom, and so we had their aspiration, Bani Sadr and many others, and they were kind of very open-minded people they also supported. But they didn't clarify the epistemology. They had Quran, they didn't say hadith, no, they said some good hadith. Well, ultimately, who will win? Those who say, well, what about other hadiths, about other hadiths, about other hadiths. And the mullahs took over. I went there for one day. I said I want to walk for a few hours on my own in Tehran. They were taking me to leader of Pastaran, to headquarters there. I met him, some big mullahs, the Ministry of Irshad. And then I went, that time I didn't fast because I was traveler, too hot. I decided not to fast. I forgot even about fasting. I went to a store, I purchased some snack and eaten on the street without knowing. I see some guys yelling at me. I didn't know whether they are yelling at me or someone else. And then I see some merchants in front of the store getting out